Hi guys, and welcome back to History Hut for You. Today we're going to be kind of looking at the costs of the American Civil War. So this is kind of our last session for topic 4. So that means we just have a look at the sort of the casualties and the human toll that the Civil War had. About 360,000 dead as part of the Union Army, over 260,000 dead as part of the Confederacy, and over 500,000 total wounded. That includes soldiers and also sort of civilians that have been impacted. Also meant for an entirely new sort of form of warfare that was being fought with rifle, muskets, and artillery. Also outdated tactics. It also meant that there was a lot of carnage on the battlefield. Obviously, because of war, you have quite a psychological impact. PTSD, obviously it's still not really understood at the time, but that became a lot more sort of prevalent. It was called nostalgia. You had high rates of desertion, where kind of people essentially isolated their armies, and you had quite a high sort of rate of this quite early on within the Civil War. And yeah, obviously lasting psychological impact. For economic sort of reasons, within the South, hyperinflation, printing excess sort of paper, obviously means to sort of less sort of value of the dollar, and also the collapse of the infrastructure with like deadly sort of campaigns by the Union, especially looking at like Sherman's March to the Sea, where he essentially obliterated the southern agriculture and the economy. Yeah, if you look at the sort of the difference in kind of the agricultural agrarian sort of contrast in the South, agriculture was in ruins again, thanks to sort of something like Sherman's March to the Sea. Cities burned down. The slave-based economy had collapsed, especially after the sort of Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln, and the banking system had been destroyed. But to be fair to them, they didn't really have much of one in the first place. The North had an industrial boom. Railroad was able to expand quite quickly, and there was technological innovation. Again, sort of two sides of the same coin. Again, so it shows how sort of different it can be. We have a look at the Northern industrial dominance. Obviously, you have mass production of weapons throughout the Civil War. You had a gradual expansion of the transcontinental railroad, and also more financial power, despite that obviously economic restraints that were kind of posed on the Union, because of how costly it was, and also we need to have a look at sort of the prospects of reconciliation. So what it's going to look like if the Union and the Confederacy, or the North and the South, were to then re-become the United States of America. You had Lincoln's second inaugural address, obviously 1864, when he's won the second election. He wants to restore the Union, bind up the nation's wounds. He doesn't really want to punish people much. He's kind of a mediator. But obviously, a lot of Southerners are still, again, deeply bitter against Lincoln, especially because of his Emancipation Proclamation. And then, yeah, and then tragic, shocking assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Meant that there was sort of a moderate voice lost. I mean, to Southerners and kind of Democrats, they saw Lincoln to be quite a radical, but he was nowhere near as radical as other radical Republicans. He was quite a moderate sort of president, I would say, and so losing him meant that there's kind of a shift towards more radical to the Republicans. Yeah, it sort of meant that there was a bit more sort of wanting vengeance and anger and retribution, especially after Lincoln gets assassinated, and the leniency from Lincoln's kind of gone. But as we'll have a look next time, it leads to sort of Andrew Jackson being sworn in as prime minister. Sorry, not prime minister, as president because he was kind of the deputy. But yeah, he has his House divided speech, and that's essentially it.